All right, so ready to dive into some of the, well, less talked about aspects of spiritual awakening.
Always up for a good deep dive, especially when it challenges our assumptions.
This piece from the Spiritual Seek really caught my eye. It's all about, like, the tough stuff, the parts that don't exactly make it onto those inspirational, quote, posters. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. It's like they're saying, hey, the spiritual journey, yeah, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There's some real grit involved.
Totally. The article dives right into why it can feel downright painful at times, which honestly feels way more relatable than pretending it's all bliss and enlightenment 24/7.
Yeah. I mean, have you ever had those moments where everything you thought you knew about yourself, like your whole identity, just kind of implodes?
Oh yeah, the rug gets pulled out from under you and suddenly you're questioning everything. It's like the article says, the death of the old self.
Intense, right. But I get it. Like all those beliefs and ideas you've been carrying around, suddenly they're not so solid anymore. It's like realizing the map you've been using is totally outdated, maybe even leading you in the wrong direction. Makes you think about all those spiritual traditions that talk about ego death.
Ego death. Now that's a concept that always kind of freaked me out.
It's not about literally dying, thank goodness. It's more like shedding those old, outdated layers of identity to make space for something new to emerge.
Okay, that makes it a bit less terrifying. But still, the article talks about this intense resistance we often feel towards change, even if we kind of know it's good for us. Like, why are we so attached to what's familiar, even if it's not really working for us anymore?
That's the ego at work, my friend. That part of us that loves control, comfort, predictability, and change, especially the kind that comes with spiritual growth. It's like a threat to the ego's little kingdom.
So our ego is basically a control freak.
You could say that. Imagine it like this. Your ego is this little voice in your head that wants things to stay exactly the same, even if it means you stay stuck in a rut. It's like, nope, no surprises, please. I like my routine, even if it's making me miserable.
So if we're trying to move towards spiritual awakening, how do we deal with this resistant ego? Sounds like a pretty big obstacle.
The first step is awareness. Just start noticing those thoughts and feelings that come up when you're faced with change. That clenching in your stomach, that voice whispering doubts, that sudden urge to distract yourself with social media or a bag of chips.
Oh, I know that voice very well. That's like it knows all my weaknesses.
It's cunning, that's for sure. But the more you observe those patterns without judgment, the more you can start to loosen their grip. Just acknowledge them. Oh, hey there, fear. I see you trying to pull me back into my comfort zone.
Okay, so awareness is key. Got it. This whole idea of the ego trying to protect us, even when it's holding us back, reminds me of another point the article made. Something about the conflict between, what was it, the flesh and the spirit.
Ah, yes, the classic battle between instant gratification and deeper meaning.
Okay, break that down for me. What exactly do they mean by the flesh? Is this like a biblical thing?
It's more of a symbolic representation, not necessarily tied to any specific religion. Think of the flesh as those basic primal desires we all have. The need for comfort, pleasure, ease. It's that voice that says, skip the workout, order takeout, and binge watch Netflix all night.
Oh man, I know that voice way too well.
Yeah.
So if the flesh is all about seeking comfort, what about the spirit? What does that part of us want?
Well, the spirit in this context is that part of you that yearns for growth, purpose, connection to something bigger than yourself. It's the voice that whispers, go for a walk in nature or spend time with loved ones, even when your flesh is screaming for another slice of pizza.
Okay, I'm starting to see the tension here. It's like two opposing forces pulling us in different directions.
Exactly. It's a natural human struggle, this back and forth between the easy path and the path that leads to true fulfillment. And it shows up in all sorts of ways.
Like what? Give me some examples. I'm sure our listeners can relate.
Sure. Think about those times when you know you should be working on that project that's really important to you, but you just can't seem to muster the motivation. You end up scrolling through social media for hours instead.
Ugh, yeah, guilty as charged. That's definitely the flesh winning out over the spirit.
Or how about when you have a choice between going to that networking event that could really benefit your career or staying home and watching your favorite show?
Oof, yeah. See, that's the thing. Sometimes the flesh is just so much more persuasive. It knows how to push our buttons.
It does. But the key is not to judge ourselves for experiencing this inner struggle. It's about recognizing that this tension between the flesh and the spirit is a natural part of being human.
So it's not about achieving some kind of perfect balance where the spirit always triumphs over the flesh.
Exactly. It's more about becoming aware of those inner pulls, understanding the underlying motivations, and then making conscious choices that align with what truly nourishes our spirits. The article doesn't sugarcoat it. This process can be messy and challenging.
Which brings us back to this whole idea of pain being an essential part of the spiritual journey. I have to admit, I'm still wrapping my head around that one. Why would something that feels so negative, so uncomfortable, be necessary for growth? It seems counterintuitive.
I know, it's not exactly a feel-good message, but think about it this way. If everything in life was always easy and comfortable, would we ever feel the need to change, to grow, to evolve?
Good point. I guess not.
Often it's the challenges, the setbacks, the heartbreaks, those moments that shake us to our core, that push us to question our assumptions, to reevaluate our priorities, and to seek a deeper meaning.
So are you saying that those really difficult experiences, those times when we feel like we're being tested to our absolute limits, those are actually opportunities for spiritual growth?
That's exactly what the article suggests. It might not feel like it in the moment, but those painful experiences can be incredibly potent catalysts for transformation.
Wow. That's definitely making me rethink my whole relationship with pain. Like, instead of seeing it as something to be avoided at all costs, maybe we need to learn to approach it with a bit more curiosity, even a sense of, dare I say, gratitude for the lessons it might be trying to teach us.
Now you're getting it.
Yeah.
It's a powerful shift in perspective, and one that we'll explore further as we continue our deep dive. Welcome back. We're delving deeper into this concept of pain being a catalyst for spiritual awakening. It's been quite a journey so far, hasn't it?
Definitely thought-provoking. Before diving into this article, I kind of had this picture of spiritual awakening as this blissful, serene state, like floating on a cloud of enlightenment. But what we're exploring here is so much more, well, real.
The article acknowledges that this journey is full of complexities and, challenges. There will be moments of darkness, doubt, struggle. But those experiences aren't failures. They're part of the process.
One thing that really stuck with me was this idea of the spirit ultimately triumphing over the ego and how that connects to like this concept of the divine. It's almost like there's this bigger force at play guiding us towards something more.
You're tapping into something that a lot of spiritual traditions speak about. This power beyond our individual egos, a source of wisdom and guidance. The article calls it the divine, but acknowledges that different folks might use different terms. God, the universe, source energy, higher self. It's all pointing to that same idea.
So it's not about following any one specific religion or belief system.
Right. It's more about recognizing that we're not just isolated individuals, we're interconnected beings, part of something much larger and more mysterious than we can fully grasp.
Okay, that makes sense. But it brings up another question. If there's this divine force guiding us toward a higher purpose, does that mean, like, our lives are predetermined? Do we even have a choice?
Whoa, now that's a big question. One that philosophers and theologians have been grappling with for ages. The article seems to suggest there's this delicate dance between destiny and free will. It states that spiritual awakening is bound to happen according to a plan, but doesn't specify whether that plan is individual or universal. So there's room for personal choice, our unique journeys unfolding.
So even if there is this larger plan, we still have the power to choose how we respond to the stuff that comes our way, the challenges, the opportunities.
Absolutely. We have agency. The article emphasizes that our spirit, guided by the divine, will ultimately lead us toward a more enlightened path. But how we get there, how much we resist, how long it takes to surrender to the process, that's all up to us.
It's like that saying, what you seek is seeking you. Even if we try to run from our spiritual awakening, it'll keep finding us, waiting for us to turn and face it.
Love that quote. Speaks to the persistence of the spirit, that inner drive within each of us that craves meaning, purpose, connection. We might get distracted, lost in the day-to-day, let fear and doubt cloud our vision, but that yearning for something more never really goes away.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the challenges, the pain that often comes with spiritual awakening. But what about the purpose of it all? Why go through all that struggle, shedding the old self, if it's so tough?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. The article suggests that our greatest pain, the experiences that really shake us up, can actually become like a compass, pointing us toward our true purpose.
Wait, are you saying that the things that hurt us the most can actually help us find our purpose? That seems backwards.
I know, right? But think about it. It's often through those tough experiences that we discover our strength, our resilience, our compassion. We go through something hard and we come out the other side different, changed.
I think I see what you're saying. The article said something about how our wounds can become our strengths, our scars can become, like, badges of honor.
Exactly. Our pain can become a source of purpose.
It's like those times when you've gone through something really difficult, and then you find yourself able to help someone else who's going through something similar.
That's a perfect example. You've experienced it firsthand. The article talks about how the author's own pain, their heartbreak and loss, led them to this passion for helping others who are grieving. It's like our pain cracks us open,
Yeah.
makes us more sensitive and compassionate to the suffering of others.
So maybe instead of trying to avoid pain, we need to learn to, like, sit with it, listen to it, and allow it to guide us to a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
You're hitting the nail on the head. The article calls it listening to the whispers of pain. If we can quiet the noise of our fears, our ego's resistance, we can start to hear the wisdom that our pain is trying to share.
Listening to the whispers of pain. I love that. It's so much more empowering than just trying to numb it out or distract ourselves from it.
Right. It's about being present with the full spectrum of human emotions, the good, the bad, the messy. And while that might sound scary, the article reminds us that we don't have to do this alone. There are so many others out there navigating this same path, seeking meaning, connection, truth.
Yeah, that's important. We don't have to suffer in silence or pretend that we have it all figured out.
Yeah.
In fact, the article suggests that by sharing our stories and supporting each other, we can actually help to lessen the, I guess you could say, the collective burden of pain.
Exactly. Vulnerability and authenticity have this ripple effect. They create a sense of shared humanity of we're all in this together, and that, my friend, is incredibly healing.
This whole conversation has really shifted my perspective on things. I'm starting to see pain not as something to be feared, but as something that can guide us towards greater understanding, compassion, maybe even our purpose.
And remember, you're not alone on this journey. It might be winding and challenging at times, but it's also incredibly rewarding. Embrace the pain, learn from the challenges, and trust that even in your darkest moments, your spirit is guiding you towards a brighter future.
Welcome back, everyone. It's amazing how much we've uncovered about this whole idea of pain and spiritual awakening. Definitely not what I expected when we started this deep dive.
Right. It's a whole different way of looking at things. Before we jumped into this article from the Spiritual Seek, I think, like a lot of people, I had this picture in my head of spiritual awakening being all about reaching this state of like pure bliss, transcending all suffering. But it seems like that's not the whole picture.
Totally. This article is suggesting that pain isn't something to be avoided or like transcended, but actually something to be like embraced, learned from. It's a pretty big shift in perspective.
A lot of ancient wisdom traditions talk about this, actually, this idea of descent before ascent. Like, you have to confront your shadows before you can fully step into the light. You got to embrace all parts of yourself, even the messy, painful stuff, to become whole.
Okay, I get that. But if pain is part of the journey, how do we actually, like, embrace it? It's one thing to understand it in our heads, but it's a whole other thing to actually feel it, sit with it, move through it without getting totally overwhelmed. Any advice on that?
Well, the article suggests that the first step is changing how we see pain. Instead of thinking of it as this awful thing we got to avoid at all costs, what if we started seeing it as a teacher, a messenger, something that can actually help us grow?
So instead of being like, ugh, this is terrible, make it stop, we should be asking, what is this pain trying to tell me?
Exactly. Get curious about it. Approach it with compassion instead of judgment or resistance. The article talks about listening to the whispers of pain. If we can quiet down the noise of our fears, and our ego's all like, nope, 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 we can actually start to hear what our pain is trying to teach us.
Listening to the whispers of pain. That's such a powerful image. It makes me think about all the times we try to numb ourselves or distract ourselves from those painful feelings. But maybe what we really need to do is just, like, be with them, listen to them, and see what they have to say.
Right. It's about being willing to feel it all, the whole spectrum of human emotions. No judgment, no resistance. And, the article reminds us that we don't have to do this alone. There are so many people out there who are going through this too, navigating the ups and downs of spiritual awakening, searching for meaning and connection.
It's comforting to know we're not alone in this, right? We don't have to pretend everything's okay when it's not.
Exactly. The article even suggests that sharing our stories and supporting each other can actually help to, lighten the load, make the pain a little less heavy.
I can see that.
Yeah.
When we're vulnerable and authentic with each other, it creates this feeling of, like, shared humanity, like we're all in this together, and that's got to be healing, right?
It is. Big time. So, yeah, this whole conversation has been eye-opening, to say the least. I'm walking away from this with a whole new appreciation for pain and how it fits into our spiritual growth.
Me too. It's not something to fear. It can actually guide us toward more understanding, more compassion, even help us find our purpose. Who knew?
Right. So remember, you're not alone on this journey. It might be bumpy, it might be challenging, but it's also incredibly rewarding. Embrace the pain, learn from the tough stuff, and trust that even in your darkest moments, your spirit is guiding you towards something better.
That's a beautiful way to put it. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the, well, sometimes painful but always transformative path of spiritual awakening. And if you're looking for more resources on this topic, be sure to check out The Spiritual Seek, which has tons of articles, podcasts, and online communities dedicated to exploring these ideas and helping people connect with their true selves. And that's a wrap for this episode of The Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time when we'll, as always, dive into another fascinating topic that will hopefully make you think, question, and maybe even see the world a little differently. Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking your own unique path to truth and meaning.